These bats behind me are one of the largest species of bats in the entire world. These are grey-headed flying foxes, and they're the largest bat in Australia, but they're facing some big problems. Alright guys, we're here in Parramatta Park. There's a breeding camp here for the grey-headed flying fox. And look how many there are. So the grey-headed flying fox can be found in the east side of Australia, all the way from Townsville down to even Adelaide. So here in Australia, we have 4 species of flying foxes. We have the grey-headed flying fox, we have the black flying fox, the little red flying fox, and the spectacled flying fox. Now the grey-headed flying fox that we mainly have on the east coast of Australia is the largest species in Australia. Their wingspan can get up to 1.5 meters long. It's insane. So this is the more common bat that you'll see here in Sydney. But the thing is, as common as they are, they're actually listed as vulnerable. Majority of people have seen these bats at night. You see them flying around and you see them in large numbers. So you automatically assume that their population is doing well. But that's actually not the case. Estimates say that their population is sitting at about 500,000, 500,000. And that sounds like a big number, but it's really not. Their numbers should be in the millions. See, back in the day, there used to be millions and millions of these bats just everywhere, all over the east part of Australia. So these guys are dealing with big issues. Their population has been halving every single decade. So they've got a big problem. One of the main problems is habitat loss, clearing their forests, clearing all the trees where they live. Another big problem is conflict with humans. Even small things like power cables, like barbed wires, these bats will get caught in them and die. As the days are getting hotter, as we experience more and more heat waves, a lot of these bats die. A few years ago, Australia had a really bad heat wave, and this heat wave killed about 20,000 flying foxes, which is a big deal for their numbers. They were just dropping out of the sky. It was that hot, it's insane. That's why when it's a hot day like today, you'll see them flapping their wings, just pushing air onto them, trying to cool themselves down. Because they have such a thick fur coat, they're used to the cold, they can handle the cold really well, but the heat is just so intense here in Australia that even the animals can die from it. What they'll also do is they'll fly and skim down and hit the water. That way they can drink water and cool themselves down at the same time. These bats are incredibly intelligent and incredibly social. They'll be in large groups like this in the thousands, all hanging out together. That social construct changes a bit during the breeding season. So breeding season is coming up and the males want their personal space. They don't want any other males to be next to them, right? So they can have all the females to themselves. So what they do is, you see them right now, they'll just be constantly fighting each other, trying to assert dominance. Their wings are so thin that these fights can even lead to punctures in the wings. The main food that they eat is flowering eucalyptus. The eucalyptus trees that start to flower, that's what they mainly eat. But they also eat other fruits. They eat mulberries when they can, they eat fig, they eat all sorts of fruits, all sorts of native fruits that we have here in Australia. Sometimes they go into people's backyards and eat from their fruit trees. When the sun sets, they all fly out, just disperse as far as they can. Sometimes they go 60-kilometer distances. So they'll fly so far just to search for food. And when they do that, they're pooing along the way and they're dispersing seeds and they're strengthening the entire ecosystem. It's incredible. Cross-pollination and spreading seeds to different forests is so crucial to the Australian environment. If flying foxes were to go extinct, entire ecosystems would collapse. If we did lose these bats, it would be detrimental to the environment. They're that crucial. These bats are considered a keystone species, which basically means they're irreplaceable. The work that they do in the environment is so crucial. No other animal can really take over and do that job. See, the grey-headed flying fox has a grey head, of course, but it's also got this beautiful reddish-orange collar around the neck. See, how insane is it that a mammal can fly? It's just crazy. These bats look like foxes, and that's where they get the name from. Their face and everything just looks exactly like a fox. And when you see them spreading out their wings and flying, you see the hand shape within the wing. They also have a hook at the end of each wing. They use that to climb around and to crawl. See, these guys are most of the time upside down. And when they are up straight, they're just climbing. They're just climbing through the tree. But most of the time, they're upside down. They sleep upside down. They breed upside down. They eat upside down. They do everything upside down. And they've got these hooks at the end of their feet, and that's how they hang. The fact that one of the most common bats in Australia, the most common bat that we see in Australia, is vulnerable. It's just very upsetting. You think they're common, but they're really not. But look at this. This is where they live. So they live right at the edge of this lake here. And they'll hang in these big tall trees. These big tall trees is where they'll be sleeping. I don't know if you can see that on the GoPro, but there's thousands. Every tree here is just covered in bats. They have a very hard time flying. And the main reason for that, they have solid bones. They're not hollow like a bird. They're just solid bone. It makes them very heavy. So that's why they struggle to fly sometimes. If you see them flying, when they take off, it just looks like a lot of effort. So it's just amazing that these mammals have the ability to fly. It's insane. I feel like in Australia, we don't appreciate these bats enough. People look at them as rodents. They say they're all diseased. They carry diseases. They're just like rats in the sky. But really, these animals are so special. Majority of the world, 99% of countries, do not have bats like these. They have small bats, and bats you don't see because they live in caves. But these bats, we see them every night. They can see, they don't use echolocation, but they're flying around and they're just massive. They're like dinosaurs. Other countries don't get that. So I feel like a lot of Australians wouldn't know that the most common bat that we see here in Sydney is actually listed as vulnerable, and it's in trouble. It could be endangered very soon. So you might think there's a lot of bats, but I just walked about 10 minutes away and now there's absolutely nothing in the trees. It's just completely quiet. If you want to do something to help these bats, something as little as planting a tree in your backyard or planting a native tree in your backyard does a lot. Because we've cleared so much of their native land, we've left them with less and less food every year. Even planting something not native, like this fig tree here, does a lot of benefit for these bats. At night, they'll come here and they'll start feeding. In spring and summer, they get a lot of nutrients out of these trees. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be making a lot more videos searching for rare animals, searching for endangered animals. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.